Hello and welcome to this session in which we learn how to deal with Scalar SQL queries. In the previous sessions, we learned how to deal with record sets. We learned how to send SQL queries for execution. And now it's time to learn how we receive a Scalar result with Scalar queries. I remind you that a Scalar query is a query that returns a single value as opposed to a whole table or a record set, just a single value. We start off by writing a generic functions to get Scalar from SQL given an SQL query as a string. So you can right away add this function to the invaluable library of VBA database functions that we've started writing in the previous session for your use. Now let's see how it is implemented. Since we are receiving some results back from the database, we're using the record set again to receive that result. So we are defining the record set type variable here and a local variable, a variant type, to which we will extract the results coming back with the record set to further process locally before we return it from the function. And then as usual, we connect to the database. We send the SQL query using that connection that is now open into our record set object or variable. And now we check. If the record set pointer is not pointing at the end of file, meaning there was some value coming back, then we have a result. And then we assign into our local result variable the first member of the record set. And there's only one member, right? There's only one member because this was a Scalar query. This is why it works. And now we make some adjustments locally with the result variable. Now we are in the VBA realm and so we're subject to the rules of the VBA and Excel, right? So from the database, we could have received null, right? Because null is a valid value in a database. So we are checking here. If the result is null, then we are converting that to an empty string. And now we can return the value from our function. Now this result coming back is treated as a string. And therefore, we trim any padded spaces before and after the result before we actually send it back from this function. So if it is a number that we received and that number may have been padded with some spaces due to the way that MySQL server had packaged this result based on its definitions of the types, the data types, then we make sure to trim off those spaces so we have just the number or the string that was returned, sent back from this function. And here we close as usual, we close the record set object if its state is open, and we disconnect the database, and we have of course an error handler with a nice message to the user. Let's use this function to get a nice query from our database from Accelerate Care. Let's say that we want to return the total number of orders of a given status in a given year. Okay? So let's say we want to see what is the total sum of the fulfilled orders in 2019. This is the kind of a business question that we want to accommodate now. So we write a function that receives the year and the status as a string and returns the result back. So here is the query that I've constructed to fulfill this question. Note that I have dimensioned the local result that will receive the result coming back from this function as a variant because it must match the data type of that function, and we keep it generic. And although we made sure here that if we received null, then we switch it back to an empty string, There could be a case where the result is really null. So not that there is an empty result, in which case it is null, but we received a null from the database. So we want to be covered from all of the possible scenarios. And if there is, for some reason, a null coming back, this variant type will also handle that. Okay? So it's not a string containing null, it's just a null, because we have null also here in Excel. And now let's see the query. We are aggregating the sum over the order lines tables, the total column there. We're running on the order lines. We are joining the headers so that we can filter on the order status to be equal. It needs to be equal to the status that we received here. And its year, the year of the order date needs to equal the year that we received here. Note that I'm enclosing the string here with a single quotes, which is the string qualifier for MySQL. Okay, the year is not needed because it is just a number, but a string does need to be enclosed, as you know. And now we just assign the results coming back from this function, and we check if it is numeric. So we received a string, a trimmed off string with numbers inside, and this will tell us if this number can be interpreted as a number of some sort, either decimal or integer or whatever. If that's the case, then we just need to return the result from the function. In any other case, we just return 0. And why do we need to do that? This function is designed to return the orders total. So it is defined as a single, and the orders total can be 0 or greater than 0, of course. But what if the result coming back here was null, and we've converted it to an empty string? Therefore, it is not numeric, it is an empty string, so we cannot return an empty string as a single. That's a type mismatch. So we return explicit 0 if it's not numeric, either null or empty space. Now let's test our function. We will print out here the total for the canceled orders in 2019, F5, and we do have a result coming back. Let's believe the query that was constructed properly, and this is the sum. And now you can see how you can also work with scalar values with the database. This is it for this session. We'll meet again in the next session, in which we explore some other tasks we need to do when adjusting the values coming back from MySQL server into our Excel VBA environment. I'll see you there shortly.